Mike, can you tell my audience who you are, please?
Yeah, sure. Mike Andriani. I'm uh, I'm a candidate in District 9 for North Carolina. I'm I've already served this country for some time. My family and I spent 8 years in the Army. I was a fourth generation uh, Army soldier, and I was a U.S. Army paratrooper, like my
Hmm,
father before me.
that's good.
I'm about pro God, pro life, pro First and
Yeah.
Second Amendments. I'm for
Yeah.
strong border security, election integrity,
Mm,
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
info up on me on my
Yeah.
website, MikeAndre.com, and you can find
Yeah.
out more about me there.
Yeah. Thank you, and your family for your service to the country, to our country.
Thank you, and I'd like to continue that.
Yeah, that's good. You're just continuing it in a little different, a slightly different way.
Yes, that's right.
You don't go through all the troubles you do when you're in the military, but you're still serving your country when you're in office. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay. So, your election is when again? I forgot exactly when.
So the primary is in about 2 weeks. It's 17 May in North
Okay.
Carolina. However, there is an incumbent in the seat,
Okay.
and as we all know, it is very hard to unseat incumbents, especially since he's won. He served for 8 years. He's done 4 terms, 2 years each. So it's going to be hard, but we'll
Mm,
see what happens. If I win the primary, then I continue, and if
yeah.
not, then that's it for me for this campaign season.
Yeah. Okay. What inspired you to start running for Congress?
So long story short, there were a number of us in the military who felt that it was a personal choice and that it violated the sanctity of our conscience over these whole COVID shot mandate things. And
Yeah.
so I put in my religious accommodation, and it was denied.
Mm,
And yeah, I just said enough is enough.
okay.
So I was thinking, running for Congress instead would be another way that I can continue serving my country without having to participate in something that personally, as a Roman Catholic, I'm
Mm,
pro-life,
yeah.
and I just don't want to be involved with anything that's involved with abortion in any way, shape, or form. I really just try to say, hey, I know this is what's going on. I'm not interested. I don't want to be part of it. Just leave me alone. I was really hoping they
Yeah.
would just leave me the hell alone, and unfortunately, that's not what happened. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to be left alone. The way that I look at it, let the government run its business and let me run my own. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I was
Yeah.
going for.
Yeah, I view it as like we should be what the founders intended for, like where the federal government is literally just there to make sure we didn't kill each other, and like the states had all the power. That's
Right.
what I that's what I think we should be. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And the founders knew stuff like this would happen. That's why they put certain provisions in to prevent it. But apparently, they're just ignoring a lot of the provisions. Apparently,
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that that's how things are, but I think things are getting on the up and up, though. I think things are getting better in that
yeah,
department. People
yeah,
are waking up and they're paying more attention, and
yeah,
as I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said that he said something along the lines of an informed elector. Excuse me. Information is the currency of democracy. So
yeah.
you have to have an informed electorate in order to make the best decisions for the republic and for our people.
Yeah, yeah, and basically Jefferson, obviously the one who wrote the Declaration of Independence, is one of
Right.
he's actually probably was the number two out of all the founders. Obviously Washington was the number one. Then probably right below him, I would put Jefferson there.
Yeah, Jefferson was good. James Monroe was good. He was the father of the Constitution, and Adams was very good as well.
Yeah, I like Adams, but I prefer Jefferson over him. So.
No, I understand. Me personally, I've always been one for small, limited government that
Same here.
champions the individual of the community, and of course, Jefferson was an anti-federalist and Adams was a federalist. So yes, I understand that. if someone were to question me, I'm more of a Jeffersonian than an Adams in terms
Yeah.
of the Federalist.
Yeah, and a lot of people on the left today talk bad about the founders, saying that they were all these racists, they were slave owners and stuff like that. But when in reality, they were anti against slavery. The reason why they didn't free them was because, and at that time, they were not legally allowed to free the slaves. They just weren't allowed to. And Jefferson, he even wrote in the Declaration of Independence he talked about slavery, but that was cut out because like they didn't want to anger England.
Yes, yes, and America is still the only nation in history that has abolished slavery within 100 years of its founding.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they are. Okay, I was just thinking off the top of my head.
The only nation in history that's done that.
But and like it's also the freest country on the entire world planet as well. Yeah, by far, and it's not even close.
Right.
Yeah, and basically like the founders, like I always tell people this. Yes, they had their flaws. Everyone has their flaws. None of us are perfect outside of God Himself. But yeah. I'm not religious. I'm just very spiritual.
No.
So like,
no, I understand. I mean, even Jesus Himself was angry at the merchants in His temple, and He ran them all out by flipping over tables and using a whip. And so, I mean, even He got upset. So.
Yeah, like my family on my mom's side, they're Southern Baptist. Me, I'm not religious. I'm just spiritual. But my beliefs align more with Christians and more specifically Southern Baptists.
Like, hey, it's a free country. We got the First Amendment. You could believe in whatever you want to believe in, or you could not believe in whatever you want. It's either way.
Yeah, and you consider yourself a Catholic?
I do. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Like I disagree. My thing about religion is I agree with a lot of it, but there's actually some things in my view that go a little too far in some areas, in just my opinion. Like I think you should have more freer thinking, like you can do more things that you want and stuff like that. That's just my view on that.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and okay, let's get into like if you do get elected, like what are some of the things that you want to do right away once you get the office?
Well, I mean, I really want to take care of this whole border situation because that's been a mess. I mean, over the past year and a half now, we've had over 2 million people cross over the border illegally. And not only is that an issue, but, also all the drugs like fentanyl that have also crossed the border too. So that needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Election integrity is a big one. I mean, we need to make sure that we have, I prefer paper ballots personally, but if we have scanning machines for those paper ballots, we need to make sure that they were made in America and nowhere else, and that they're not connected to the internet. And I'm big on voter ID too. I mean, I need a photo ID whenever I get on an airplane to fly, or if I'm to buy alcohol, or if I'm to get into a house, buy a house or anything like that. So why a photo ID is not needed for an election is pretty absurd, in my opinion. Elections determine the fate, the destiny, or the fate of a nation and its people. And for us to not be able to verify who is actually voting is a considerable security threat and risk.
And they want. I'm going to tip along this real quickly. They want us to be able to show papers to just go outside or do whatever we want to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And also they say if you're against this, you're far right or something like this. La la la. You're a fascist or whatever. They don't realize that themselves are behaving like fascists. That's what the Nazis did. They are acting more like the Nazis than people on the right are, a lot more.
Yeah. One thing I never understood about the whole fascism is on the right thing is, that's really not true, because we think of who the first fascist leader was, and the first fascist leader was Benito Mussolini, right? That's pretty much, and then after him it was Francisco in Spain, and then Hitler and all that, right?
Well, the thing about Hitler is a lot of people today, particularly on the left, say that he was a right winger and the Nazis were all right wing. That's actually not true.
Yeah, it's not true.
Because the Nazis, they were socialists.
Yes.
Specifically, they were national socialists. That is a strain of socialism, and they
Yeah.
they're denying that it's a left-wing ideology.
Well, another thing that people forget too is that originally it was called the National German Workers' Party, right?
Yeah.
It was only until after Hitler was voted into power as the chancellor in 1933 that socialist was added in. Before it was the National German Workers' Party. Then it became the National German Socialist Workers' Party. Why would you throw in the socialism aspect into it after you attain power? So there's that. But then another important point too that I was talking about earlier was so Benito Mussolini was the first fascist, but what most people don't know or they don't want revealed or they don't really want to talk about is that actually fascism comes from socialism. And the reason this is because Benito Mussolini was actually part of a socialist group in Italy. And a friend of his that he was in the group with, his name was Giovanni Gentile. And he was a lifelong socialist. And he was actually the guy who came up with the concept of fascism. And he was a lifelong socialist. So it's not an ideology of the right.
Yeah. Socialism, like I tell people, socialism, yeah, it sounds great on paper, but it's never been been used properly ever. Like Venezuela, Cuba, and like Russia, it technically is a socialist country. Like they're not really a communist country like people say they are. They're a socialist. China, on the other hand, they are a communist country. Like, yeah, and also another thing about the Nazis, when like people say that they were right wingers, and like one of the main talking points that they say about like why did Hitler ban all left-winging parties, or why did he arrest communists and other socialists? Well, the reason he did that was because he didn't want competition. He wanted the only party to be are the Nazis. That's all he wanted. He did not want anyone getting in his way.
Well, not only that, but fascism and all that. It's an ideology. I mean, so which religion is also a form of ideology. So. Yeah, so people will go, well, why were the fascists fighting against the communists? And it's because it was a difference in ideologies. And if you look back in history, 500 years ago, we had the Catholic Church fighting against Protestants in Europe. And then even earlier than that, in the Middle East, you had the Shia and Sunnite Muslims fighting against each other. And it's because they were ideological differences. Just because they came from the same branch, Shia and Sunni came from, Islam, and Catholicism and Protestantism came from Christianity, and fascism and communism came from socialism. I mean, it's just a difference. While they may be on the same side, so to speak, it's a difference of ideologies.
Yeah, socialism and communism and even fascism, they're all linked. You can't sever them. It's not exactly the same, but they're almost identical in a lot of ways.
Yeah, socialism, fascism, and communism are the unholy trinity.
Yeah, that actually is true. And like probably the biggest example of socialism is probably at the moment currently is Venezuela. Like I believe it was Chavez who was the person that turned it socialist. Like and like one of the things is like he's destroyed Venezuela in a lot of ways. Like here an example is Venezuela. If a lot of people don't know, is actually one of the most oil-rich places on the entire planet, and they can't even drill for it themselves because they inflated their currency so bad because of socialism, and they can't do anything. Yeah, and now the administration of the White House, they want to go there and get oil from them.
They can't do anything until we pump our money into them to get oil from them.
Yeah.
But not tapping our reserves, so gas is going to still continue to be at a high price. So.
Yeah, and I'm buying oil from Venezuela. Guess what? What do you think Venezuela is going to do with that money? They're going to use it to continue funding the regime in Cuba. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, imagine having your enemies so weak like Iran and Venezuela that you have to pay them money just to continue being a threat.
Yeah, and like this is all a giant plan. Like it's obvious that this is a huge plan. It's not like it's not just like everything's happening naturally. No, it's all being planned out by the people working behind the scenes to just bring down America and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, nothing new there. I mean, Germany tried it a while ago, and they tried it again even earlier than that. So yeah, same old, same old.
Oh, and this Ministry of Truth that Biden created.
Yep.
It's straight that this is something the Nazis did, and also it's straight out of 1984.
Yep. Yeah, I've read that I read 1984. That was a good book. I probably got to reread it again. It was
Well-
called The Ministry of Truth. And then in Nazi Germany, it was actually called the Ministry of Propaganda, and it was run by Joseph Goebbels. But they weren't shy about it. They're like, yep, we're gonna have a ministry on straight up propaganda.
Yeah. And right here, I have probably the second worst book compared to 1984. I view it as the sequel to it in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yeah. That was
Klaus Schwab's
I remember
book.
hearing about that. Yeah.
You got to read the book, man. Like they reveal their entire plan in it. They reveal all of it.
Who wrote that again?
Klaus Schwab.
Okay.
The head of the World Economic Forum.
I know him. I know of him.
Klaus Schwab, he's also a Rothschild, if you didn't know.
That I did not know, but
he is on his mother's side. He is also Bill Gates. He is a Rockefeller too.
I could see that.
Yeah, and like the Illuminati is actually something that's real. It's something that's actually real. Like I know it's like fiction, like a lot of people say it is. It's not. It's actually a real thing where a bunch of these people work behind the scenes and plot all this out. That's actually what happens.
There's Masonic lodges all over America. So it's not like these things aren't impossible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Klaus Schwab even admitted that his organization, the World Economic Forum, has infiltrated governments all around the world.
I think I've seen a couple really amazing clips that they just straight up say these things, and I'm just thinking, well, they're just openly talking about this stuff. But yeah, it's
even Joe Rogan talked about this on his podcast one time, and he was shocked about it.
Yeah, what's great about Joe is he can say whatever he wants. So.
Not really, because Spotify, I think he's not allowed to have Alex Jones back on or Eddie Bravo back on or even a few others. Like that makes me angry. So
I've seen clips from that Alex Jones episode. That was hilarious.
He had three of them.
that was really good.
He had Alex Jones on 3 times.
Oh, it was 3 times? I thought he only had him on like once or twice. Okay.
3. Like he had him on episode. He had him on with Eddie Bravo the first time. Then the second time he had Eddie Bravo on again. Then the third time he had Tim Dillon on with him again. That time.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you listen to all the stuff that Alex said, so much of it was true. In the first episode that he was on Joe Rogan's podcast on Joe Rogan's podcast, he had talked about the metaverse. About that, basically saying they're creating a digital space for everyone to plug their minds into. And
I agree. I remember it was shortly after Russia finally decided to go into Ukraine, but there was a clip that was brought up back in October of him. It was like a 20-second clip, but it was Alex Jones. He was sitting at his desk in InfoWars. He goes, hey, I got some news. This was in October again. He goes, hey, I got some news. The war is going to be over there is going to be starting in late February, and that's exactly what happened. They rolled in like 28 February or something like that. And he said that back in October.
Yeah.
I know late February. It's like not very specific, but that's a 1-2 week period of time, and that's when it happened. So he's been pretty par for par. He's been doing pretty well with the information he's been getting.
Yeah. Like he was the first person to expose Jeffrey Epstein as well.
Yes. Yeah. I remember hearing about that. Yep.
And he also exposed Bohemian Grove, where that's where all the elites go to. Basically, like they have all these meetings and they these occult rituals.
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that.
I remember about that. That was a couple years ago. Yeah.
No, he did that in 2000. Yeah, that happened in 2000. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe. Oh, you know what? Maybe I saw the clip a couple years ago. That was probably it.
Like literally it was all these like top-ranking generals, former presidents, heads of bankers and estates, like all of them basically going to it's like a summer camp, and they do occult rituals, and like they burn an effigy in front of a statue of Moloch, the owl god.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy. Like if it was like a bunch of homeless people in the woods doing it, it would be odd enough. But the fact that you have these people doing it, it's at least curious. Like, yeah.
It definitely raises more than a few eyebrows, that's for sure.
And it's just like what else is going on behind the scenes? Like like he also exposed like they're using baby blood, like the elites are doing that.
Yeah, did you see the clip recently of Megan Fox talking about that? And she was like,
I don't think I have.
yeah, so it came out like 2 or 3 days ago, but there's a clip of her. She was doing some interview and she was saying how, she drank like a couple drops of her boyfriend's blood and he did the same for her and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it's weird, but it definitely adds credence to what others are saying. That's for sure.
Yeah. and like and with this Ministry of Truth, what it's part of Homeland Security, I believe. I believe it's an extension of that, if I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that they were going to try and implement that through the Homeland Security. Yeah.
Okay, so what's next then? Are they going to start like literally like forcing them people to like you cannot create content that talks about this? You get banned if you just right now you get banned if you upload it. So what if we just say nope, you're not even allowed to make this kind of content at all?
Well, I mean, they've already tried to force people to take experimental injections inside their bodies, and it's hey, you do this, you lose your job. I mean, that's pretty coercive enough. So for them to do what you're saying, that's really not too out of the question. I mean,
Yeah, I'm curious, like, and this Great Reset initiative that basically it's the 2030 agenda. That's when they plan to implement the Great Reset. We're like basically they want people living in pods, eating bugs. They want that's
yeah. I've heard all that stuff. I know.
Like they don't want anyone to have any privacy. They don't want anyone to own anything, and they.
You can't make you can't. Everything has to be electronically filed online, so they know where your money's going to and what you're spending on. You can't just give a couple dollars to buy some gum. That's got to be recorded.
Yeah, that's why I believe Bitcoin is the future. Yeah.
Well, we'll see, because they're trying to crush down Bitcoin too. But yeah.
Well, the elites, they're actually buying up Bitcoin. So with how bad inflation is, like I think it's obvious they want to destroy all currencies around the world and create one unified currency.
I mean, that's how you reset things. You can like destroy stuff, and then that's one way to do it.
Well, with the currency, instead of like making one, they'll probably what if they just use one that they already have that already exists? Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin, I believe, is the future. We're like and the thing about Bitcoin is there will only be 21 million. It cannot be inflated, and plus there's no CEO of Bitcoin either.
Right.
And plus I think my money is actually safer with Bitcoin as well. Yeah. And I think crypto overall is actually beneficial. Like because I think clearly the U.S. dollar is going to it's gonna get worse, and I don't think the U.S. dollar will ever come back. Actually, yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see, but I mean, I do agree. I do like crypto. Solely on the fact that it's diversifying the financial portfolio. I mean, it's good to have multiple ways of paying things off and getting money to come in, so that if one system collapses or if anything happens, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. I mean, it's important to diversify your portfolio in that aspect.
Yeah, and I believe, and if it wasn't for the Second Amendment, I believe the Great Reset would have already been implemented.
I'm not so sure about that, but at the same time, I saw a funny meme, and the meme said they wouldn't be trying to take away your guns if they weren't doing something that you would want to use your guns against them or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's obvious. Like when the government fears the people, that means there's peace. When people fear the government, that means there's tyranny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's really how it should be, because it was we the people that established the government, the Constitution of the United States of America. It wasn't the other way around. The government just didn't say, "Hey, we're going to create people." The people create the government, and that's how it should be. And that's how our founding fathers intended for it to be.
Yeah, the founders, like if they were here right now, they would be horrified of what's going on.
I agree.
Like, yeah, right now they're probably turning in their graves, all of them.
They're probably spinning.
Yeah.
A new form of unlimited energy can be, done by that. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, there is this green agenda thing that they're trying to push, this Green New Deal crap, and but at the same time, they're not doing anything for themselves to lower their emissions. So why should we?
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
it's it's to throttle our economy so that it
yeah,
hurts us.
yeah. Like in my opinion, like I believe, like why can't we just use both? Why can't we use fossil fuels and renewables at the same time?
Well, we already are. I mean, we got.
Yeah,
I mean, in North Carolina alone, you know, 32% of the state is powered by nuclear. So nearly a third of all energy in North Carolina is produced by nuclear. And in America as a whole, it's 18%.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we're already using solar and nuclear along with gas. So
yeah,
I mean, we're already there. We're already doing it. So why do we
yeah.
need to change that?
Yeah. Well, nuclear for me, like I'm on the fence about it. It's not because really of all these disasters that's happened. It's mostly because like all these plants where the nuclear energy is being used, all these plants are way too old and like they're leaking at dangerous levels. That's my view on it.
Well, yeah, and I understand that, but I mean, there's nothing to say that we can't close those nuclear
Yeah.
nuclear
Yeah.
reactors and use new ones. I mean, they
Yeah.
already have
Yeah.
small modular reactors in which you can just take reactors and just stack them on top of each other for extra
Yeah.
power, like Lego bricks. If you need extra power,
Yeah.
and they're a lot safer. They have
Yeah.
passive cooling systems in case power
Yeah.
is lost.
Yeah.
Like if the power is lost, the core goes into the water to cool it off so it doesn't
Yeah.
overheat. I mean, so a lot of these nuclear power plants that you see nowadays are from the big smokestacks or from the
Yeah.
70s and 80s. I mean, in
Yeah.
fact, nuclear power has advanced so much that I believe that those were the version 2 nuclear reactors. No version 3s were really created, and now we're in version 4, which is in the micro nuclear
Yeah.
reactors. So I'm really big on nuclear energy.
Yeah.
I definitely support it. I
Yeah.
just wish that
Mhm.
more people knew that stuff about these
Yeah.
passive cooling systems and all that, and that it is a lot safer, and
Yeah.
and it would be a lot manageable even if anything were to happen.
Yeah, like I don't have a problem with nuclear energy. I actually like it, but my only issue is like all these plants, so they're old, like
Yeah,
and basically
and,
they're
and
leaking at dangerous levels.
yeah, and I definitely support decommissioning them, and but we need a plan, and the plan is we can't just decommission them and then spend years trying to get the new plants in there. We need to decommission them, at the same time. Well, by the time that they're decommissioned, we need to just be able to just drive in these new ones that can fit in a 20-foot cargo container and just put them in there where they once were.
Well,
So,
like yeah, well, like Germany, like they shut all their nuclear plants down, and now their power thing is so desperate they've had to open up a whole bunch of coal plants just to get power.
well, not only that, but now they're overly reliant on Russia gas as
Yeah,
well. So there's that, and China has also had to do
yeah,
coal plants as well.
yeah.
Their energy needs.
Well, like China and like India, like they're open like 9 coal plants every day, and like they don't have any restrictions. Like even
Yeah,
on their plants, they don't even have any scrubbers. They just burn all of it and just shoots up in the atmosphere.
I foresee in the future that there's going to be like that there's going to be like a joint government well, not a joint government, but there's going to be like a coalition, like a group of like Russia, China, and India. I think all three of them are going to be like the new
Well,
powers combined against the Western powers. I
well,
see that happening.
well, China and India hate each other.
Yeah, for now, but I mean, things can change. I know
Well,
that, but
Well, like before Russian oil was banned here in the U.S., China and Russia hated each other. But now that Russia's been banned from the SWIFT payment system, they're relying on China at them now.
yeah, I mean, and again, that's just history. I mean, with once China became communist, I believe in '46, it was in the '40s, but
Yeah.
the USSR and China were pretty close because they were both communist countries, and then they had a bit of a falling out in the late '60s, early '70s, and then that's when Nixon came in.
Yeah.
President Nixon came in,
Yeah.
and then that's when he spoke with China, and then that's how we got on China's good terms against the USSR. And really, ever since the '70s, that's China's been making stuff for us, and they're a big part of our economy and all that. And it's because of that split between the USSR
Yeah.
and China, and
Yeah.
and of course now,
Yeah.
decades later, China and Russia are talking more to each other again, like they were,
Yeah.
60 years ago. That's just
Yeah.
history. Time
Yeah.
passes, things change.
The thing with China is like the main reason it became communist was because like Truman, he didn't give enough support to Chet against Mao when Mao's revolution was going on, and so that allowed Mao to win. And then Nixon came along and he opened China up, which made things much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a fan of Nixon. Like, I like Truman, but I like Truman, but there were he had a lot of question marks though.
Yeah, like nationalizing. I think it was like he tried nationalizing one industry, which of course is socialism, and
but he did.
Yeah.
But he did release the Japanese Americans that FDR had put into camps, though. He did do that.
No, that's true. But you're right. There are questions with him. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that there are things that he's done that I don't agree with personally.
Yeah, and
I do agree with personally.
Yeah, and also like with and also he had a lot of question marks with North Korea as well. The Korean War, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was Ike who got us out of the Korean War.
Yeah.
So got us into it, and Eisenhower got us out.
Yeah, because he threatened China and North Korea that if they don't stop this now, they're going to go full on nuclear war.
Yeah, which is hilarious because MacArthur was the one who said that we should nuke China, and then he got relieved by Truman. And then when the new president comes in, he goes, "Yeah, I think we're just going to nuke them like MacArthur says." And then of course that was the winning strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like all of this, like China becoming communism and like North Korea and like stuff in the Middle East and Vietnam and all this stuff could have been avoided if they did one thing. Like after Nazi Germany fell and during World War II, if you remember George Patton, he said, "No, homies, this is not the end of our war. We need to go all the way to Moscow," and we didn't listen to him. So
he didn't, and it wasn't even. Excuse me, it wasn't even just that. He even said we defeated the wrong enemy, as in we didn't. We should have defeated communist Russia. He said that too. So
both of them should have been defeated. So
yes, and I agree with that. But I mean, he said that too. And then of course what happened? He died under extremely questionable circumstances.
Car accident.
Yeah, I actually read the book "Killing Patton" by Bill O'Reilly, and it was a really good book.
Also, Patton and Eisenhower did not get along with each other. They could not get. I think I'm gonna phrase this in a weird way. I think Eisenhower may have had something to do with Patton's death.
Personally, I'm actually a little bit of a military historian. I know that Eisenhower liked Patton because he was a good commander. He won battles. He won victories. He kicked ass. Yeah. So Eisenhower liked Patton. But what he didn't like about Patton was his PR, his personal relations. He was really bad. He would say all sorts of things.
Like,
he would do things that people would not agree with. And so,
did you know that? Did you hear about that story of when Patton was in that hospital and saw a guy who had emotional distress, like shocked, and Patton threatened to kill him if he didn't get out of the hospital?
Yeah, I know about that, but what I was saying was, so Patton gave a huge headache to the Nazis because of how he was as military commander. He gave a huge headaches to Eisenhower because of his incivility, I guess you could say. Yeah. But no, I don't really think that Eisenhower really had anything to do with that. And the reason why I say that is because his farewell speech he gave, he warned of the military-industrial complex, going out of office. So Eisenhower was pretty much against that. So I think maybe it was some other force, some other, I don't know, something else that got Patton killed, not Eisenhower himself. Or, sometimes this happens too. Maybe Eisenhower one time said, "Oh man, Patton, he's driving me crazy. I wish he was better, or it could be taken care of." And then someone overheard that and was like, "Oh, okay." And then they just went and killed Patton. I mean, that unfortunately that kind of thing has happened in history as well.
I just think Eisenhower had to have something to do with it, at minimum something.
I've read Eisenhower's biography, and they've served together previously too.
And
I
and
just
also
I don't know. I really don't
and
know.
and
I
also
would,
Patton, he's not celebrated anymore. He's only really celebrated at Trump rallies because like on Trump on like all the the screen he shows
yeah,
a bunch of Patton speeches
yeah.
but like Patton today is pretty much disregarded these days.
Well,
So
that's because Patton was a warrior, and
yeah,
they don't want warriors around because warriors
yeah,
challenge the status quo and they fight back. They don't
yeah.
want warriors to be recognized or known.
Yeah, and like I like the idea that Trump he has Patton like on the screen like showing some of his most iconic and great speeches. Like
Hmm.
if you just listen to the guy speak, like this guy like he has a charisma, man.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I mean, Patton and Trump, both
yeah,
have a lot in common, including
yeah,
scaring the crap out of people.
yeah.
So,
Trump's
yeah.
actually given has a rally today. It's
Oh,
going to be
okay.
in Nebraska. Well, yeah,
All right.
yeah. I live in Iowa, so yeah, yeah. I didn't have a chance to go, like, but if he comes to Iowa again, which I hope he does, and I might go then. I might.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to half the states, but I haven't been to Iowa and Nebraska yet. But I would like to go to all the states in this country at some point.
Yeah. Have you been to any of Trump's rallies there in North Carolina?
So I did attend the one in Selma. That was a couple weeks ago, and that was good.
Yeah, yeah,
I got to see the Lieutenant Governor there, Mark Robinson, and I saw Ted Budd there. Who's running for U.S. Senate right now. So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I still kind of I still haven't done too much research on him yet because like I remember like last year when when it was we found out that Senate seat was going to be opening up, everyone was saying like Trump's daughter-in-law was going to be doing taking
yeah,
that.
and I've actually I've seen I think his name was Laura. I've seen Laura
Yeah,
speak a couple times, on the news, and she was actually she was well spoken.
yeah,
Her her thoughts and her words, they were informed. I mean, she was aware of things going on, and she had a very calm manner. I think she would have been a great candidate
yeah,
for U.S. Senate, but unfortunately, that didn't pan out. And
yeah,
for this Senate race, it's been really interesting too because after Burr was censored by the North Carolina GOP, he decided to not seek another term in the Senate, and because of that, in North Carolina, we have 14 candidates for U.S. Senate. I mean, it is crazy how many people are running for that seat,
yeah,
and it's going to be it's going to be 14 people on the primary ballot. It's just
yeah,
it's
yeah.
great.
How many people are on the ballot in your district for that seat?
So there's 4 on the Republican side, and there's 1 Democrat. So the Democrat will not be going through the primary vote because he's the only one. The whole Democratic Party for this particular district street is behind him. However, for the Republican side, that's still to be determined.
Yeah,
And as I said near the beginning of this podcast, it is extremely difficult to unseat an incumbent. So
yeah.
what happens? Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be a huge red wave this year. There is going to be,
Yeah, that's
and then
for sure.
it's going to lead right into 2024. Yeah,
Yeah.
but first, before we get into that part, because I want to talk about that, but obviously, I believe I'm 98% sure that Republicans will retake the House. I believe that. But here's the thing, though: if they do, they cannot have McCarthy be the Speaker of the House. They can't.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. So
Yeah,
I mean, it is going. I mean, historically and looking at trends, it is going to be a red wave in both the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
This November. However, are those people who are part of that wave, actually, on the Republican Party, or are they rhinos? Are they just Republicans pretend to be something they're not? So, and unfortunately, it's not always easy to determine or vet people when it comes to that aspect. So I imagine that there's going to be, a number of patriots that are going to be getting into office, but I think that there's probably going to be more rhinos getting in. And until you get more patriots in, and then eventually the rhinos disappear. It's just
Yeah. You know who I think should be the Speaker of the House come this election cycle? Jim Jordan.
Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's been doing really good on the I think it's the House Judiciary Committee he's on. So I would. Yeah, so I think he'd be really good as being the chief, as being the top guy for the to really drill into corruption.
Yeah.
And just these really suspicious individuals, and I think he'd be good for that.
I think he would actually be better Speaker of the House because you need to have a strong speaker up there to be in charge of everything. I agree. I think Jim Jordan fits that because he is not afraid to say stuff. He even went on Candace Owens' show one time. Yeah. But and also, what do you feel about the Marjorie Taylor Greene situation going on right now?
I think that's just the best that they can do to prevent her from being on the ballot. And it's not just her. They're also going after Madison Cawthorn here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
All the really, America First, Patriot, MAGA, all those guys, they're really trying hard to prevent them from coming back into office because they're scared of them, because they know that they're going to poke holes in their arguments and they're going to call people out, and they're going to, they're going to come up with like a news clipping or something that's like, hey, this is what's going on right here, and it's exposed for all the world to see, So they're scared of these people, so they're trying to prevent them. They're doing everything they can to prevent them from, returning to Congress, returning to Capitol Hill,
including Trump too.
Of course.
And the Democrats and people on the left say these people incited an insurrection by objecting to the Electoral College, by objecting to it. When in 2016 they objected to Trump's victory.
Yeah, that in particular really matters. Because it's not just because the thing is that's part of their job. The part of their job is to raise questions on the Congress floor about certain states. And you're right, but it's not just 2016. The Democrats did that in 1968 when Nixon won. They did that in 2000 against Bush. They did in 2004 again against Bush, and they did in 2016 against Trump. So whenever a Democrat gets elected to the presidency, they never question it.
Yeah.
But every time a Republican does, at least within this new century, within the past 25 years, they question it every single time. And then the one time Republicans do it, like the one time ever their side of the aisle does it in 2020, they get into a hissy fit about it. And it's ridiculous.
And particularly in 2000, even though I'm not a fan of Bush, but still though, but let's just play into the scenario about the Republican part. Well, they objected to Florida, obviously, because there were a lot of questions with what was going on in Florida because Bush was declared victory. But here's the thing, though. They objected to it, but the Supreme Court said the decision was final. So Bush won Florida, and they objected to it. So
well, not only that, but Florida's obviously a lot better now, but Florida was a mess, 20 years ago. I mean, I think they did like 4 or 5 recounts in Florida, and every single time they did it, it was different numbers. So there's that, but every time they did it, it was within like a 300 vote margin. So every time they did it, Bush beat Gore by like 300 votes. But I mean, how can you do like 4 or 5 different recounts and you have different numbers every single time? And that's just within a couple hundred. It was like what kind of it's really frustrating when I think about that stuff. It's insane. We've had issues for a long time. We've had issues when it comes to that kind of stuff in this country, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think that was the main reason why they got. I believe Florida was the only one that had that pin drop voting system where you had to take that pin and just pin this. I believe it was the card to what candidate you wanted. They got rid of that right after that.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
That was the main reason why, because it brought a lot of questions in. Like sometimes people would punch a hole, and sometimes the paper would not go all the way through. It would just hang by a thread. So it questioned whether or not that counted as a vote or not. So
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I believe in paper ballot, but I just think just sign your name, whatever to what candidate you want, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, I like paper ballots too. However, we have so many people in this country that it's that's like tens of thousands of ballots to vote. It maybe even in a single night. And
Yeah.
so I like scanning machines. Like they got like those little battery operated machines in Vegas that shuffle cards or shuffle money. It'd be
Yeah.
nice if there's something similar to that, but it's like a regular scanning machine, and it just scans papers. However, all it does is scan. So it says like I don't know, like on a monitor or something that's like, hey, this vote for this candidate, this many, and all it does is scan. It's not connected to the internet. All it has is a power plug into the wall, and then it just tells you on the screen as the stuff is going in, this is what it is. And then after that, if there's enough time or if a recount is asked for, then you can individually go through the ballots. And then, but yeah, I mean, these machines should just have one cord, a power plug into the wall, and that's it. They don't need anything else.
Yeah.
And they need to have no wireless modems or anything like that inside them as well, so that they can't just transfer stuff outside as well without people knowing.
Yeah. What are your views on drop boxes then for voting?
I don't like them. I mean, the way that I think about it is that this is how I've always felt about it. Personally as a civic minded citizen of this country, if you care so much about this country, if you really do, then I think that you should go in person and vote on election day. I mean, and I get that people need help, but I think people should be able to go to their employer and say, "Hey, boss, can I get 2 or 3 hours if I have to wait in line? Can I be excused this morning or this afternoon so I can go vote, and then I'll come back to work?" I mean, like in the military, if you're like a National Guard, if you deploy, your employer cannot penalize you for deploying, as in they can't fire you, they can't take away, give your job to someone else. Like they have to keep your job. And so I think something similar should be for voting. I think you should be allowed 2 or 3 hours of leave to leave your employment to go vote and then come back to the office. I really think that it's part of your civic duty as an American to vote. And so, and I know early voting is more convenient and Dropbox is more convenient, but the more ways that you allow people to vote, the more potential way there is to fraud an election. And if you show up in person with a voter ID, like, hey, this is me, or here's my voter registration card, and you vote, I think that's the best way to do it. That's the most safe and secure way to do it.
Yeah, same. I agree completely with what you said there. Florida, for instance, I believe last year they passed their new election laws where DeSantis, he said he was not a fan of drop boxes, but the reason why they kept them was because his legislator wanted them. So technically,
that's separation, or not separation of powers. It's the balance of power. So as the executive branch, DeSantis may not like that, but if the legislator wants them, that's fine. And the way that it says in the Constitution is that the legislator determines the time, place, and manner of elections. And a manner of an election is a ballot box. That's within the state legislator's power to keep ballot boxes if they want to.
Yeah.
Or rather, if their voters want to. Now, if their voters phone them and say, hey, we don't want ballot boxes, then they need to say, okay, we need to not do that for my district or whatever. But
Yeah, and also I read recently that with the red wave coming here in 2022 and then up until 2024, Republicans could have a 62 or 64% senators in the Senate. I heard that, and that would actually be a filibuster proof Senate, so they could pass anything they wanted really.
Yeah, so I know that they're going to take a majority in the House and the Senate. I don't know. So what?
With both elections, not just one. I'm talking about with both of them.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about 24. But I think in 2022, the Republicans are going to probably pick up 60 seats in the House.
No.
I don't know if that's a supermajority per se, but if they do end up getting 62 votes in the Senate, then that would be a supermajority. So it may be possible to get a supermajority in the Senate, but I don't know about the House.
Yeah, and also if they get a majority, when they get the majority back, they cannot put McConnell as the leader of the Republican Party in there. They cannot. The person who I think should be the leader, the Republican leader in the Senate, is Rand Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you couldn't have Rand Paul, then probably go with Ted Cruz, only because he's a constitutional scholar.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Like, what do you see going forward with these next two election cycles?
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to take back the House and the Senate in 22, because that's the historic trend. Whichever party comes into office for the presidency, typically they pick up seats 2 years later for the midterms.
Yeah.
Now, 2024, I don't know. I mean, you would think in 2024 there would be more Republicans voted in. But maybe not. I don't know. So, we'll see. I don't have a crystal ball. I have a much better idea of what 22, 23 can bring, but 24 is kind of far out there. There's a lot. Hey, there's a lot of things that can change between now and 24.
Yeah. Also, I got to ask you this: do you think Trump is running in 2024?
Yeah, I believe he is. I thought that he even said that himself, but yeah, I mean,
no,
I'm sure
he hasn't.
Whoever the VP is, that's kind of, I don't know what's going to go on with that, but I think he is going to run in 24.
Yeah, I believe too, and I'm still sticking to my guts who his VP is going to be. I'm still positive it's going to be DeSantis. I'm still positive on that.
People keep saying that, but I personally, I do not want DeSantis being the vice president. And the reason being is because we have a really good, solid state in Florida.
Yeah.
And it's because of DeSantis. And even people in Florida have said, we don't want DeSantis running for president because then we lose him as governor. So I really think he's going to listen to his constituents and his voters. And if they want him to stay in Florida, then I imagine he's going to stay in Florida. Plus, he can do a lot more as the governor of a state than he can as the vice president of the country. Yeah. So I think it's a smarter move to keep DeSantis in Florida. Now, I don't know Florida's election laws. Like in terms of governorship. So I don't know if DeSantis can run as governor forever. Yeah. But I imagine that there is a term limit for a governorship like there is in most states. And maybe once he can no longer run for governor, he could do that. But again, I don't know his timeline. I don't know when the next election would be. I don't know how much time. I'm a North Carolinian. I'm not a
Floridian.
So I don't know about that. But I think if DeSantis can't run again for governor, then I think he should toss his hat in to the national ring. But until then, I think he should stick with Florida. Personally.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, in Florida, it used to be a purple state, and if it did lean anywhere, it would lean blue.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's a red state now. I don't think it's a red state because of Republicans. It's a red state now because of DeSantis. And if DeSantis does leave as governor, I think the possibility of a Democrat governor being put in place there in Florida goes up dramatically.
Yeah, well, it's not just because DeSantis is the governor of Florida. It's also because, especially over this, I think Florida picked up an extra seat in the House because of the census. So it's also a lot of Republicans from California and New York who were sick and tired of the COVID mandate stuff, and so they left those states to go to Florida. So Florida kind of similar to Tennessee, is kind of seen like a mecca on the right of a place to go and retire to and move there. Yeah. So it's become red, not just because of his policies, but because of like-minded people also moving there as well.
And also I think, but also DeSantis, if you look at him, look at it how he is, he's basically a younger version of Trump, minus saying all this random stuff that you probably shouldn't say as a politician.
Yeah, I agree with that. he's even been doing the hand stuff. Like he's been doing more hand gestures and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's kind of getting into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Trump and DeSantis, they're both alphas. And so one of the things that a lot of people have been saying, like, they can't work together because they're both alphas, they would not get along. Well, here's the thing. I think that they would both realize they would put that aside, and they would come together because they would realize in order to win this, we need to put the two big dogs together. And like, there's no way we can lose that.
Well, it's not just that; it's mutual respect. Like, a lot of people said, oh, the reason why Trump gets along so well with Putin and with Rocket Man in North Korea is because he's a dictator and they're dictators too. No, it's because those guys respect strength. They respect power because they need those things to remain in power. So when Trump comes around and he's a big alpha too, like them, they like that. They know not to screw with each other because it's going to lead to a bad time for one of them or both of them. And then, when other people come in who aren't as strong as Trump, they get walked over, So, that's why it's a mutual respect for strength and power as a leader. Yeah. That's why they got along, not because of any other reason.
Yeah, basically, it's like a corporate. It's like basically like the government. It's like a corporate thing, like a board. Like all the countries are sitting around the table. Like a lot of the big dogs are screaming at each other, threatening other things. And then Trump comes along and puts his nutsack on the table and says, "I'm in charge here." That's really what happened. That's really what happened.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, at least. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they would both put their that aside and would come together. Because, like, if not DeSantis, then who would be his VP? Because it's obviously not going to be Pence, obviously.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that there have been people who said that they wanted, like, Candace Owens to be, like, the VP for Trump, And she's smart, she's intelligent. She's a mom. She definitely brings a lot to the table. I think she would be a good VP, and she's really good at roasting people, too. I mean, she's like DeSantis and Trump, great at roasting people. And I think she'd be. I think if I saw a Trump Owens ticket, I would definitely 100% vote for that.
Yeah. If somehow this clown managed to get through to 2024, I would actually and see like Kamala and Candace go head to head. I would pay to watch that because that would be pay-per-view level.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably on pay-per-view. I mean, I enjoyed watching the debate between Pence and Kamala Harris. I mean. That debate went really well for Pence, but that debate went so poorly for Harris that I remember like the next couple of days after that, all the media could talk about was the fly on Pence's head because they could not say anything else against him other than that fly that landed on. But he crushed that debate. I watched the whole thing and it was really good. He did really well. That was actually one of the best debates I've seen. It wasn't even a presidential debate; it was a vice president debate.
Also, obviously, Pence will not be his VP, and I don't even want him to because he betrayed Trump. He betrayed him.
Yeah, nobody wants Pence back after not standing his ground on January 6th. Nobody wants Pence back. And people go, he couldn't have denied anything.
Yes, he can.
Thomas Jefferson did that himself. Even when he was the vice president running for president. I mean, Thomas Jefferson has done that. I remember Richard Nixon as well. So in the 1960 election, the votes in Hawaii were questionable. And at the time, Nixon was the vice president. So he was also, in charge of the Senate. And Nixon actually had the option. And people did talk to him like, hey, Hawaii's coming up. You should deny the votes. But he decided that it would be the ungentlemanly or the not civil thing to do if he did not approve of Hawaii's electoral votes in the presidential election in 1960. But the thought did cross his mind that he could do that. And he was well within his powers and abilities to do that. And he was well within his ability to do that in 1960. Yeah. And it was the same case in 2020, 60 years later.
Yeah. And the Constitution gives the president of the Senate, which is the vice president, the exclusive rights to not only count but disqualify electoral votes.
Exactly. Exactly. But people go, "Oh, that's unconstitutional." Well, I find it that the people who often say that things are unconstitutional are the ones who are the least well read of the Constitution. I found experience.
Because the founders, when they were writing the Constitution, they debated every possible scenario you could put in, and like they not only that, they debated how it should be said, how it should be read too, like every comma, every sentence, every little word, like because they knew stuff like this could happen.
Well, not only that, but they also made sure that the Constitution, was a 20-page document so that it was readable, and it just didn't go on and on and on like so many bills that go through Congress. So it was meant to be short, so it was readable and understood by anyone.
I don't want another bill to be brought in on a cart and like a 5,000-page thing that no one can read. And because you remember that happened last year.
Oh, well, it's not, well, not only that, but just last month, that 1.5 trillion omnibus spending bill, in which
Build Back Better.
No, something else. It was they gave like 16 billion. They wanted to give like 16 billion to Ukraine and stuff like that. But that was a 2,700 page document. And it was for 1.5 trillion. I think that was to make sure that the government could continue being funded. Which people, I always find funny when people freak out about government shutdowns. Like, oh, the government's gonna shut down, but actually, only about 20% of the government shuts down whenever that happens. It's not a big deal, but people still freak out about it. So. Yeah.
Who actually writes all these bills? Who does that? Like, who?
That's a good question. Lobbyists maybe, congressional aides. I don't know. I would imagine that whoever is interested in getting the legislation passed, so maybe like that special interest group, they would be the one to write it, and then they would send it to Congress and see what happens. So, I'm not in Congress, so I can't really speak on that. So.
Yeah, and which district again were you running again? And which
9.
one?
District
9. Is it a red district or a blue district?
So it's a red district. But what was interesting was we've had a lot of redistricting stuff happening in North Carolina. But what was interesting was this particular district was a likely Republican district a couple weeks ago. And then since then, it's been determined that it's a safe Republican district. So what that means is that whoever wins the primary in 2 weeks.
You there? You there, Mike?
Because they're going to win in November. Yeah, I am. Yeah,
okay,
my phone's dying a little bit. Yeah, hi.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up in a couple minutes so that doesn't happen again. Yeah, but what were you saying?
So what I was saying was it's a safe Republican district. So whoever wins the primary in 2 weeks is going to go to Congress. So of course, short of getting hit by a bus or saying something dumb or anything else like that. So
yeah, and you were actually the second candidate that I've actually had on the podcast. Like on the last episode, I had a guy who's actually running for the House in Alaska, for the U.S. House in Alaska. His name is Bob Lyons. So and also I do plan to have more candidates on here eventually. So
good. Yeah, it's definitely important to have candidates be able to not only talk, but also for people who watch the podcast or interviews to get a better idea of who their potential candidate is and get a feeling for who they are, what they know, what they talk about, where they stand on things and things like that. So it's super important.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to show this yet, but I wanted to show my audience this yet. I got the very first shirt with the logo from my podcast on it. The very first piece of merchandise. It's not for sale. It's a one-of-a-kind thing, but I was going to show this off. So see?
Oh, yeah. Yep, there's your logo.
Yep. It's meant to be an insult to the Illuminati. Yeah, because I had the triangle with the eye in the middle, and then plus also meant to be an insult to the Democrats because I put it in blue.
Right.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up like right now so it doesn't die, your phone doesn't die out. All right. Before I let you go, Can you let my audience know where they can find you?
Yes, my website, it's mikeandriani.com. I think the spelling of my name is on the screen. People misspell my name all the time. It's okay. I'm used to it. So mikeandriani.com. And you should be able to find, my other info on there. And I served for 8 years in the Army, and that's done with. And I'm looking, looking to do this.
Yeah, well, I have a big military. Well, I was never in the military. I have family that was. My grandpa and all 5 of his brothers were in the military, so I have that military bloodline. So yeah, although I'm not serving my country like out there, I'm in a way serving it in a way because to get messages, it's kind of message
you're
out
doing
there.
it in a different capacity, like me. Yeah, you're doing it in a different way, like I am.
Yeah. All right, guys. This is it for this episode 22 of the Ray Infinity Show podcast. This is Mike Andri and how do you say that again? Mike Andri. Mike Andri. This has been Mike Andriani, the guest on the podcast, and this has been me, Ray, aka Mr. Ray Infinity, from the Ray Infinity Show podcast. Catch you guys later. Peace.